follows an extract from my book Fête Fatale, available from Amazon.
Chapter 11, Part 2. Conrad's arrival made a natural break in the conversation, and so, with promises of further friendship and exchange of numbers, Beth and May made their excuses and headed for home. "I really like her," said Beth, "and it proves the point of what I said on Saturday. Although I created the meeting to snoop out some information if I could, I am genuinely keen to make friends. I've been wanting to for ages, but couldn't quite get the impetus to find an introduction. I'm not being dishonest or devious, but I am creating and making the most of opportunities, and I do think that it was worth it on all levels. What do you make of the strange conversation that John had with Conrad at the fête?" "I'm not sure what to think of it. Does that mean that John's concerns were driving him to dishonest measures? If not fraud, would it imply suicide? It certainly means something, and I think you're right that we need to find out. I'll tell you what I am sure of. Conrad won't have told the police that little bit of gossip. I feel like a real fishwife with so much I heard and he said going on, but I'm sure that's where the real answers lie. If there is anything to discover, this is how we'll find it, and this is why Benji will struggle. Two men aren't going to swap idle gossip like that. It won't seem important enough, and it's those very details that will give us the clues that we need," said Beth. Back at Mossleigh police station, Maddox sat at his desk feeling disgruntled after a very unsatisfactory morning with Gareth Foster. He was now talking on the telephone to Detective Chief Inspector James. "How did you get along, Maddox? Did you find out anything of interest?" asked James. "Oh, I got along famously," said Maddox. "Gareth was extremely helpful, too helpful. There wasn't much he didn't tell me. I heard about John's entire business history and roll of
available in
accounts.
paperback
If I had
or
the
an
brains to
ebook, follow the
understand what was
link in the
being
card
said to
in the
me,
description
I got an
box,
immense
or
download
find
of
details on my
information and a
website
very
at
technical explanation
sharonbill.com.
of what the
Thanks
financial
for listening.
consequences would or could be. However, when I finally got it wrapped up in layman's terms, there's nothing new and we're no wiser. In short, things were sticky, but not as bad as they could be. There's nothing worse than an earnest accountant. I presume that you came back with a small rainforest of paperwork which we could look at through our leisure. Of course, if you want to get your boffins onto it, maybe they could translate it for me, but I don't think it'll lead us anywhere new. We can only hope that there's something on the laptop that can give us the clue." "Ah, you may have something there. I've made a start on that and it's interesting enough, but it can keep for a bit. I'll tell you about it when we meet up." So, the official stance is that John's business was as Conrad said, a bit of a mess, but workable. And that's just what we don't need. Something but nothing. Typical. It certainly doesn't explain a massive coronary, does it? Probably not. I take it that the estate now passes to Jean. You need to speak to John's solicitor to make sure. As they didn't have kids, it's unlikely that the estate would be split. Better just check that he didn't have a Scandinavian lover and has left it all to her. His solicitor might just give us a different slant on his general state of affairs. It's worth a shot. In the meantime, I'll wander over to the toxicology lab and breathe down their necks a bit. Although I won't breathe in again until I'm out of the room. Right you are, sir. I'll make an appointment with Shepherd and Moss in Alderley and see where that takes us. I think that I might just track down some of the authorities in Greece or Spain, just to make sure everything is as it seems. I don't suppose I can justify a business trip to Spain, do you think? I guess I'll have to just telephone and do my best. Well, if you change your mind, sir, don't worry. You can call on me at any time. I can pack my suitcase in a jiffy, no trouble at all. Now, that's very kind of you, Maddox. I'll bear it in mind. Being the regular morning for cleaning at the Barlow's house, Henrietta took Toby to play at Emma's and then walked to Jean's to begin work. "What would you like me to do today, Jean?" she asked. "Do you want to keep some of his things, maybe some of his books or some other mementos? We can leave those until last so you can think about it. Perhaps I could carry on sorting out the clothes for now. Yes, I think that's the best way. I don't think there's anything I particularly want to keep. I don't think it helps in the long run, do you? Said Jean. I expect everybody finds their own way of coping, but I'm inclined to agree with you. That's my way. Clear out and start afresh is my motto, but sometimes it's easier said than done. Goodness, there's such a lot though. Eileen has offered to help and Betty too. It seems so ungrateful, but I just can't cope with them being around for too long. I know that they mean to be kind and don't want me to be lonely, but they just get on my nerves after a while. They do fuss. I can imagine. Maybe next time, if you think it would help, perhaps Emma could pitch in. I'm sure she would, and she'd make quick work of it without fuss and bother. She's not one for sentimental attachment to things, and she always tells me, if you haven't used it, chuck it. She'd be glad to help. That would be great. Betty keeps on suggesting that I keep this or that, and then tuts disapprovingly when I tell her to bag it up for the charity shop. I think they'd only be happy if I turned the house into a shrine to John, but that just holds you back. I won't forget John, but I don't want reminding of him every time I turn my head. It sounds harsh, I know, but I have to try and move on. You two are busy enough with your own families, though. Don't spend longer on me than you can manage. I can't deny that it'd be a load off my mind. I just don't know where to start. A bit of young, business-like efficiency is what I need. Oh, we'll manage just fine, don't you worry. We quite like to get stuck into a project, and it's easier somehow when it's somebody else's stuff. Just you make sure you put by anything you're sure you want to keep, otherwise it'll go if Emma's got anything to do with it. She says it's because she lives in a tiny cottage and so there isn't room for sentimentality. She says that if she hung on to stuff, they wouldn't be able to move. What will you do with the space? Do you fancy a sewing room or maybe a cinema room? You could go mad. I haven't thought that far ahead, I'm afraid. I can't think past just packing things away. I'm hoping that after that I can think of fresh starts, but not yet. Nothing seems quite real just now. It's purely psychological, but I don't think it'll properly sink in until after the funeral. I hope it won't be too long before I can start to get all the funeral arrangements organised. I can't explain why, but it's really important to me to get that started. It'll make it real, I think. For the full book of Fête Fatale, available in paperback or as an ebook, follow the link in the cards in the description box or find details on my website at sharonbill.com. Thanks for listening.